Everybody, while we're waiting for the LT, I wanted to put some slides up on the screen for us to start looking at. Is everybody seeing the right side, or do I need to swap my displays? Good. Okay, so one of the things that we'll be asking for, so sorry, Lauren is out sick today, so I will try to run this part that she was going to be sharing with us. But I believe she has sent this to all of your groups, and I'm hoping that this has been part of your conversation with the between your working groups. But she's hoping that we can get these metrics, these primary indicators confirmed by your group, that it's all okay with you, so that her and a new person, Rita, who I'll introduce in a little bit on our team, will be collecting the data so that we can start to prepare for the population of our G3 dashboard. So I just want to put these up. I'll scroll through it slowly so you can be taking a look at it. And if you can make a decision today at the meeting and say that we have the all clear, that would be good. But if possible, please email by tomorrow to Lauren to let her know that this is good to go. I'm assuming that she sent this way in advance and has and shared a deadline with you earlier. Any questions so far? I'm gonna start clicking on the next slide, but healthy and prosperous communities. Any questions on this first slide? And maybe I will ask Rita if you can jump in and, well, first introduce yourself. We've got Rita, a new fellow on our team, funded by our National Science Foundation Includes grant. And she can share with us what these primary indicators mean and how they were selected and why we need you to confirm them. Rita?
Hi everyone. So I'm Rita Bernardo. I'm the new fellow with the G3 team. So I worked with Lauren on these primary indicators in the last couple weeks, identifying which indicators we wanted to highlight that we thought was important to highlight for our upcoming G3 dashboard. So in each action category, we highlighted a couple of the metrics that the working groups have proposed that they have the data either collected or that they're working on collecting. And so these are the initial indicators that we're hoping to put on the dashboard. And so, yeah, as Austin has mentioned, if you can review these and also maybe checkpoint with your data team to see if the data is available, and then let Lauren and I know. Hopefully maybe next week, that would be most helpful so that we can start populating the dashboard.
Thank you, Rita, for the instructions. I see that the Lieutenant Governor has joined us. Lieutenant Governor, we were just getting a little bit of a head start on one of the items.
No, please, that's how it should be. So continue, please. I'm all ears.
Okay, thank you very much. I was mentioning to our group that Lauren is out sick today, so we will try to catch up on the work of the steering committee today to prepare for our Guam Green Growth Biannual Meeting, which is set for April 6th. It is a Tuesday, and we are attempting to shift it just a little bit. And pending confirmation on the governor and lieutenant governor's schedules, we would like to now hold this from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. instead of 9 to 11, as we told you last month. So again, April 6th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pending confirmation on the governor and lieutenant governor's schedule. And this is because we've made a little room for an opening of our conference keynote speakers. We're having a UN Decade of Ocean Science, and if you saw some of the news that we had from last week with coordinated by the Lieutenant Governor and the Port Authority General Manager, we had gone to visit Nicole Yamase, the first young woman or the first Pacific Islander to go down into the Marianas Trench. So she will be coming to join us as a keynote speaker for this UN Decade of Ocean Science. And we're also inviting the NOAA Chief Scientist, Craig McLean. So we're hoping to get both of them on that morning. So that's why we're pushing this back just slightly, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on April 6th. But we have a few things to prepare for in advance of that. And I think you've been discussing this in your individual category of action working groups. We have a report template, and you've received the guidance on that. So perhaps we can start there, and then we'll come back to these primary indicators that I have on the screen, and I'll put those back up in a little bit. But if we can, could we check in, starting with the first group on how you're doing with your report, and do you need anything from the Lieutenant Governor and I as the co-chairs of the steering committee to help support you to move forward in time for the biannual meeting? So I think healthy and prosperous communities, if you'd like to give us
That's me.
Thanks, Mel.
Sure. We're doing okay. Lola Leon Guerrero is my sidekick. Well, I'm her sidekick, more like. And so Lola is engaged with DPW, getting some information that's in the metric, as well as Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness. The really interesting thing about Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness now is that there's additional funding potentially coming through for grants. So that'll help with meeting some of the metrics. Public health will be revisiting some of their goals. And then the agriculture team, so anything dealing with food security, we're actually meeting tomorrow morning to clean up, to consolidate our information, because there's been some developments. There have been some grants that have come in. There's some workforce development things that are happening. And there's just, there's a lot going on in ag and aquaculture. So we're all meeting tomorrow to talk about that. And then once we do that, we should be able to populate the matrix and move forward. And yeah, so far so good. Everybody's been very cooperative.
Thanks very much, Mel. Shall we go on to Educated, Capable, and Compassionate Island, Dr. Okada or Senator Lee, and Lonnie Brennan?
Okay, I can provide an update. So our group met, and what we're going to do is take a look at what we have identified in our matrix already, so that we can recalibrate some of the priorities based on additional funding sources that are now available. And what we also have identified some additional additional goals that we can add based on, again, some updated information, such as the Island Sustainability Committee that is under UOG right now. So we wanted to identify and update that because it does talk about sustainability curriculum and the interdisciplinary approach to it. And then Trades Academy also had an additional item as it relates to their recent award from the Department of Interior grant. We are going to look at what strategic efforts we can realize in this and update our matrix as well. So we've already met and we've got some activity going, and we should not have any issues regarding this.
Thanks very much, Dr. Okada. Anything to add from your co-chairs?
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to mention, she was pretty comprehensive, but John Fernandez mentioned that he goes, well, what happened to the compassionate side? And so We are engaging, we are going to engage with Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness on that aspect, and like Dr. Okada said, recalibrate and strengthen some of the initiatives.
Okay, thank you very much for making sure that those get added back in. And are we ready for Sustainable Hut with Vince and Brent?
Hi, good afternoon. LT, good afternoon. Austin, good afternoon. Yes, as a matter of fact, we just had a meeting yesterday to get beefed up for our primary summit meeting, I guess on the 6th. We're also scheduled to meet next week, Thursday, I believe. So we're Lauren's setting that up for us. But yeah, in reviewing our items within our area of responsibility, I think one of the things, several of the things we wanted to add. Well, I know we already took care of the tropical building code, so that's really good. But I was looking at some other things, especially with regard to public works, and that has to involve the use of glass in our roadways. I'm not sure if that I don't think that was included. And then I know we do have solar, the use of solar in our buildings. I know that's already down. I'm not sure. And you've got this the matrix in front of you, Austin. Every time I look at you, I keep calling you Sonny. But I don't know if we had addressed the issue of having lead within our buildings, within all the government buildings, whether that was addressed. So we might want to include that as well. And just a few other things that I think we may have missed that from the initial meetings. Brent, if you have anything else?
No, I didn't have anything to add. Thanks.
Okay, thank you both very much. And congratulations again to Brent on the Guam Tropical Energy Code. I think that is a big win that you already get to put in this report. So that will be really nice to see. I will have to dig in to the matrix here, but we'll see if lead is included. I know that Dr. Okada makes a lot of progress on this every time she builds a new building at GCC that gets done. So we should all follow her example on every new government building. That would be wonderful.
Exactly.
And thanks. Okay, and so we ready for Thriving Natural Resources with Fran and Vanjie?
Fran, do you want to give the summary?
Yeah, sure. Our group met yesterday, and thank you very much to the Lieutenant Governor for the support from Candace. We had 17 people come to our meeting yesterday, which was like amazing because it's usually just 5. But it looks like we're moving along in our plan, so there's a bit of progress. We meet once a quarter for updates. We prioritize all our action items and assign leads to each of the goals. We've heard from Kayo Dahilig yesterday, and they have a new Youth Alliance group form. It's called Us for Guam, and it encompasses like all environmental youth groups here in Guam and all the activities that they're working on. There's a Fisheries Management Plan working group that had been formed, and they are meeting regularly now to address all the action items in life below water as it pertains to fisheries. We heard from Dr. Romina King that funding had been identified to have a PBS university for high school students, and they'll have like 15 to 20 episodes that focus on one theme of science. And I think LT and BSP had reached out to her, so they're working on that. We also heard that because in one of our Life on Land goal was to develop 5 watershed management plans. Yesterday in our group, we heard that we have one already in the works, and it should be completed by September, hopefully, for the Manel Gays watershed. And then there's a Tuman watershed plan in discussion right now. Guam EPA is like working on reviving the watershed planning committee. Banji said the right name.
Yes.
And so hopefully that'll move things along for a Life on Land goal. Let's see. Sea Grant got some federal grant funding of up to $231,000 to continue watershed restoration efforts in Ugam. So that'll start up like in October. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't know, Banji, if you want to add any more.
No, thank you so much, Fran. But on the metrics that were selected, I think our group wants to revisit some of the ones that were selected to make it more where we can actually monitor them. Because sometimes in the metrics, it will require additional funding to do the surveys to actually come up with the actual numbers. So I think what we would like to do is have the metrics reflect things that are already done, so we don't have to spend additional money just to collect the data. And that's it. We don't think that any of the quadrant slide that you have here will be difficult for us to complete by the deadline. And I know Lauren gave us the deadline of March 20, the last week of March, to be able to give it to her so that she can have it compiled for the big meeting on April 6th.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Thriving Natural Resources. And next up, Sustainable Alliances. I don't think I saw Melvin on or Mayor Savars. Trina?
Yep, I can handle it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Austin, and thanks, Lieutenant Governor, everyone. We also had a chance to meet earlier this week, and thank you for assigning Roy to us. It's been very helpful. We have already prioritized everything, and then this past week, we were able to go through and discuss sort of updates, but also to assign who will handle each section for the template you gave us. And so we're well on track to do that. And we have set up a standing call to ensure we have everything in order by then. The biggest thing we needed to update is that we had a whole section on engaging more strongly with the Pacific Island Forum. And now that the Micronesian countries have pulled out of the Pacific Island Forum, Melvin and a small group are going to relook at that and maybe update as needed. But other than that, we're on track to provide updates, and we have everyone assigned tasks to do that. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Trina. Ricky, is your group working on one of these matrices as well, or this report document for data and public engagement?
Hey, Austin. Hi, everyone. Hi, LT. No, we don't have, we're not working off of that, but we could if required.
Well, could you, I know we've had a few meetings on the G3 dashboard, and you attended some of the meetings with Hawaii Green Growth. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. You know, just in coordination with Austin, as well as Lauren and especially even Corey, the data and public engagement team has been had several meetings, and I think there are some other meetings just between the G3 and Sea Grant staff with Hawaii Green Growth and Esri, who is the who's in charge of their dashboard. And I think some of the discussions kind of involve just their process in terms of how they gather the data from their different committees, similar to what we have, but obviously ours is a little bit more unique to Guam. And so we've been kind of working with them. I know that Austin, I know that you and your team have a little bit more information in terms of the details, but the committee that's made up of Rendrati as my co-chair and others in our team have been kind of working behind the scenes. Even though we don't meet, there's some work being done behind the scenes, but we're kind of looking forward to the wanting to work with all the other groups so that we can kind of figure out how we can gather the data, whether it's going to be a look back and having to put data together, or if it's going to be in a prospective moving forward basis. But once we get all those inputs, then we can start working or continue to work with Hawaii Green Growth. And I think they're allowing us, and maybe Corey might know a little bit better on that process, but we may be able to kind of utilize their relationship with Esri currently. And I think the last meeting we had with Esri, they actually showed some interesting templates that included, Guam Green Growth or G3 on it, which was kind of exciting. So there's some movement on that, and I think once we finalize all the data inputs, then we can move forward. I think from the marketing side, Rendrati and Jonas as well, who's our not co-chair but vice chair, has been kind of working on the marketing strategy in terms of how do we engage the public from the perspective of understanding not only G3 but even just the SDGs. And those SDGs obviously need to be understood in conjunction or with knowing what Guam specific goals are and what SDGs fall under which group. And so that plan worked out. And I know that, in terms of all the social media handles, Corey with Austin's team has been kind of saving, some of those handles on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And I think those are all pretty standard to stand up, but I think what we're waiting for is really just the website as a landing page for a lot of what the social media will be pushing. And so there is a somewhat of a campaign that we're looking at doing in conjunction with obviously starting up a dashboard. So I think that's kind of what we've been up to since, I guess, maybe the last meeting. I know, I don't know if there was a report out from the last meeting, but that's what we've been doing with the data and public engagement team. And
thanks very much, Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah, and Austin too, I was wondering, I don't know where this falls under, but I'm on the board of the retirement fund, and we've been working on, we have $2 billion and we direct that investment in a lot of places, and we could make a lot of, impact in terms of, changing our investment policy statement. And we've been trying to integrate some policies as it relates to investing in ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance type investments. And we can make a lot of impact in terms of how that, how we can allocate certain things or determine which money managers we select based on, our investment advisors or consultants' recommendations. But we've been working on in terms of trying to direct certain things, certain decisions, because the law kind of limits our ability to jump into certain types of investments. But we've been kind of incorporating some internal policies to do that. So I don't know if that falls, which committee or group that falls under, but that could be something that, that can be tracked, I guess. And then on the airport side, we've been kind of working on our strategic plan. And I know that Lauren had emailed us a little while ago related to, certain policies that we could kind of implement, but I guess post-COVID, because finances aren't great at the airport right now, but in the future, in terms of incentive-based fees, schedules for aircraft that may be more eco-friendly or use different types of eco-friendly fuel. So we're, that's something obviously on the horizon, but I just wanted to kind of put it out there with those two agencies that I have a little bit of involvement in, and I don't know where those could fit, but they're obviously measurable. And so that's something maybe if one of the other committees wants to kind of partner with, we can kind of assign someone in each of those agencies to just be part of, or maybe report to whichever group we have here. So I just wanted to report those two out too. Thanks.
I think that we should include it for sure. You know, like on the retirement side, really that's in the first SDG, no poverty, right? That's the point of retirement programs, is to make sure that retirees and of course the programs that fund them are going to make sure that they have a standard of living. And then of course on the initiatives with regards to the fuel, that obviously is in the clean energy thing. I think those are good. Maybe what I'd suggest, Ricky, is why don't you look at that with Stephanie, who's and then maybe we can push it out. But no matter what, I think you know, there's going to be a tremendous amount of resources if you're reading the tea leaves coming in through the Department of Transportation and the infrastructure projects. It's a big priority for the Biden administration. So probably I'm thinking maybe you might want to assign somebody in your airport planning office, or even one of your consultants to work with Vince and his team.
Yes, we'll do, LT. I'll get with Steph.
Yeah, you know, I just so you know, Austin, the other one I've been in a meeting with folks that are trying to pursue kind of like commercial aviation. These are local businesses that are into small aircraft that are trying to get in, and I know that there's interest with the FAA to build and fund a commuter terminal that would help create or enable some flight schools and some other aviation related things. So I think maybe we just put that in, and at least, if anything, at the very least, we had talked about having projects or initiatives that we want committees to be aware about as they relate to, you know, the SDGs or some of the action items. So I would say that we push that out as part of our process, and give the chairs an opportunity to take a look at that and see whether or not they fit into any of the projects. And if anything, we list them as projects of interest so that we're up to par.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I think Dr. Okada, did you still have a question? You had your hand up.
Yeah, so I think somewhere under the educated, capable, and compassionate island, we can talk about the endowments, where our endowment investment portfolios also include that sustainability effort, because it is in the GCC Foundation. We can check to see if it's in, it should be under UOG, and then we take a look at the one that is under the DOE on the trust fund. So that might be something we can look at, including somewhere.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. Ricky brought up quite a few good points about the data that we will start collecting for the dashboard. So I'm going to segue back to that the earlier slides I was showing on the primary indicators. How's everybody feeling about those? Did your groups get a chance to do a review on those at all yet? Or do you think, is anybody going to have trouble providing an approval by tomorrow, or do we still need some time to take a look?
I think we need some time. I don't think that when we were looking at the metrics, if it's going to be easy to get some of that data. So we'd like to maybe propose alternative.
Okay. Thank you, Vanji and Thriving Natural Resources. Other groups, how are you feeling about the proposed primary indicators?
For educated, capable, and compassionate island group, I think I'm going to need to circle back to some of our team members to see if there's any issues with obtaining this information. So we just need a little bit more time.
Okay. Thank you very much. And so when you're confirming these, and if you do know where the data source is, please let Lauren know so that she and Rita can go start pulling at least some of that together before our G3 biannual meeting. Any of the other groups like to chime in? So just as an example, like for sustainable hut, we're looking for things like disposal rates of landfill waste, recyclables, food waste. Number of weatherized buildings and homes. Is that correct, Rita, or should we be looking at the metrics are okay, right? Not the SDG related target indicators?
Yes, that's correct. So the metrics are what was proposed by the working groups that they are able to provide. And then the SDG related target indicators, we've added that so that these metrics that you propose will eventually either we can tie it to the SDG if they're already directly tied to these target indicators, or we're hoping that we can expand the data collection so that they are aligned with these target indicators from the SDGs.
So Rita, can you correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've pulled out there were a whole bunch of different metrics on the last version of the action framework. And so you've pulled out some of the metrics that looks like we have data somewhere here on island, right, as a start to populating our dashboard. So this is just a start, and we can add on more metrics going forward.
Yes, so these are just the primary, these are the ones that are going to be kind of initially telling the story for each action category. Of course, this can be changed as the team, as the working group team leads see fit. But these are the first ones that we proposed based on the action framework that was provided, I believe, updated last month.
Thank you, Rita. Any other input from the other groups?
I think for healthy and prosperous communities, one of ours is going to need to be revisited as well. It's references to the GDP. So the GDP, the metric has to do with number of business licenses and things like that, or hotels adopting a resiliency plan. But GDP tends to be like a 2-year lagging measure. And so it's going to be kind of difficult every 6 months to talk about something we gather from DRT, but then the indicator would be lagging quite a bit. So I think that an alternative is going to be necessary.
And if I can just chime in, I think another thing too is in looking if these metrics can gather data, but otherwise, if you also agree that it looks like the right indicators to again tell the story of your action categories, we could also just indicate if there's no data yet that we're still in the progress of collecting it or it's still being measured. So that's another thing to think about.
Thanks, Mel and Rita. Anybody else have input on this topic?
And Melvin did join us, so I would defer to him, but on our call, I don't think anyone had any issues with the proposed metrics for sustainable alliances. Melvin, do you have anything
no,
to add?
we are going to have to adjust. Just one minor thing is the Pacific Islands Forum was one of our targets. And, if you've been following the news, Micronesia just did an exodus. So we're, it's kind of, it's a very fluid situation. We still got to do some homework and figure out, where our neighbors are at. Word is that they're going to position around the Micronesian Islands Forum or try to develop their own regional forum somehow. I'm not really sure. So we will adjust that piece, but everything else is we're on pace.
Okay, I think that's like an item in I don't know if that's an item in your metrics, but maybe like one of the objectives or
Yeah, no,
something.
it's not really. Yeah, it's not
Okay.
really. We are trying to. It was one of our goals to increase our presence there. So it just needs to be adjusted.
Melvin, I think what Austin's talking about is the other document Lauren sent us that we showed. That's the primary indicators for the whole dashboard. And
Oh yeah, no,
so
we're okay on that side.
okay.
Okay, so does that mean we've got a confirmation from Sustainable Alliances that yours is good?
Again.
Okay, perfect. We've got one. And I'll make sure that Lauren and Rita are reaching out to all of the co-chairs individually to get confirmation and get adjustments so those can move forward. Did we miss any groups that have input on this?
I think sustainable house, utilities, and transportation.
Yeah, just and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have to add a few more that we believe are missing, and like I mentioned, also we're meeting next week to finalize everything with our groups, and we should be we'll get everything confirmed by then.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ariola. Lieutenant Governor, those were the main items we had for discussion. If you'd like to add any other topics to discuss now, or perhaps give the co-chair updates that we skipped from the beginning.
I'm pleased that everybody's moving, quite frankly. So I was just going to say that, you know, I'm looking forward to everybody basically completing their forms as we prepare for the meeting in April. So I have nothing to add, Austin. I'll defer to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Lieutenant Governor. I just have a few updates on what our G3 core team is up to. So we have a new member, Rita, that you've all met today. We had discussed, I think in our last steering committee, the proposed projects under the Recycling Revolving Fund money to work on Island Beautification Task Force projects, like getting recycling bins, creating a conservation corps, helping with the plastic bag ban outreach. So I think the EPA board is meeting right now. Hopefully they give us a final approval, but we'll see right after this. And if so, then next week we're going to be in full-scale launch mode on all of those projects and finish up planning for our conference on island sustainability, which has the G3 biannual meeting, and it'll be co-chaired by the governor, and the lieutenant governor will have a session focused on human society. So we're going to cover over the course of several days the three main areas of sustainability, which are human society, natural environment, and the economy. So we will have the lieutenant governor working on that panel with us. Some of the economic development things will be focused on the return of travel and the tourism industry. We will also have an aquaculture panel with our Sea Grant partners from the University of Hawaii helping us to bring in island examples of aquaculture. And finally, an innovation panel on other makers, like we're going to be demonstrating through the Circular Economy Makerspace and Innovation Hub opening soon. We hope to share like precious plastics, this big plastic block machine that can hopefully solve our waste problem. And we've been talking with them looking for a solution for Guam. So we're moving all of those things forward and trying to highlight those actions locally, regionally, and globally to inspire more action on sustainability. And then I would like to, Melvin, if you're still on, just let you talk a little bit about our partnership and our upcoming makerspace coming to you soon at the Chamorro Village.
Sure. We're renting 3 units to the G3 group. The maker space, which is the one Austin was just talking about, and we worked out I'm thankful we were able to work out an agreement on the last unit. So we are exchanging a discount in the rent for the handling of the plastic recyclable waste, which will go to the maker space, and our green waste, which is a really great help to us. You know, we lost our trash contract during COVID because we depend on the non-appropriated fund and our rent. And so waste has been a big challenge for us lately. And so it doesn't solve our entire problem, but definitely a huge part of it. So for the green waste, we're gonna be, the team will be purchasing a chipper so that my team at the village can just bring all of the green waste to one area. We'll have it mulched, used around the campus, and then available for the public to pick up. I'm trying to also work with the Hagåtña Mayor's office because they usually are the ones that handle not just our green waste, but also DPR's green waste. We're also renting a unit to Guam Sustainable Culture, who's already started working with the G3 group to collaborate on a community garden. And so we'll loop them in on the green waste effort. We're actually also doing some, this is not entirely related, but we are doing some work with BSP to try to figure out some planning for to push the village as a model for sustainable practices. We are also going to be working with the G3 team who will serve as advisors for that effort. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks very much, Melvin. And just to add quickly to that Guam Sustainable Culture Partnership, I think we're just about ready to go with that partnership. And so they will be working with us and their new AmeriCorps team to establish a community garden at the empty lot across from the Hagåtña post office. So Senator Regine signed our lease or memorandum of understanding for that property last legislative term, and we will reconfirm with Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes and get moving on that project. So that should be breaking ground within the next couple of months, and we may reach out to Mr. Areola to see if he can help us figure out how to get water and a couple things over there. So you and a couple other partners. So those are the main things that we have going on. Any questions for us or anything else that any of our chairs would like to add? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time this afternoon and for all of the work that you've been doing in your respective teams. And we look forward to our biannual meeting this April 6th. Thank you so much for all of your contributions to our sustainable future, everybody.